Hey guys, today we'll be doing a short review, kind of long-term review of the S25 Ultra, which was supposed to be the best smartphone ever released by Samsung and the best smartphone of all of them, but in reality it's not. And I'm going to explain you why today. Uh, but for those who don't want to watch everything, basically this reminds me a lot of the iPhone 16 and 16 Pro Max from Apple. Samsung is basically copying Apple in everything, in terms of the bad things. They're releasing the same phone every year. No, nothing new. As you can see, the body, it's the same design basically since the S22 Ultra. Let's be honest, nothing changed, and some people actually think it looks worse than the previous years, like more cheap. I don't know about that. It looks okay, but it's just the same. So it's the same thing Apple is doing. Look how times have changed. This was my first phone in 2001, and now that's the S25 Ultra. But let's talk about the screen, and the screen is just amazing. I mean, I've never seen such an amazing screen. I think the only phone that can compete with this screen maybe is the Pixel 9 Pro XL, or maybe the OnePlus 13. But let's be honest, this screen is just extraordinary. It's not 4K, but it's like Quad HD, and it's actually better than the S24 Ultra last year. It looks more vivid, the colors are better, and last year I had some issues with the screen with the S24 Ultra. It just wasn't as nice, but this year it's just incredible. I'm loving this screen. I'm not saying the S24 Ultra was bad, but this is just much better. You can see the difference. But let's talk about other things. One UI 7, and actually it's different from Apple. At least Samsung didn't copy Apple on this. The One UI 7 is really good. It's totally different from the mess Apple made with the iOS 18 full of bugs. This is so fluid. The first time in my life I can say that the One UI is actually more fluid and faster than iOS. It's crazy. It's just running amazingly on this phone. I really love what Samsung did here. The only other Android system that I think it can compete with this is the one from Pixel, which I really like, and the one from OnePlus and Oppo. The other systems from Android I don't really like. I'm currently using a Xiaomi 14 for testing, and the HyperOS 2.0 is just trash, honestly. But the good thing is that One UI 7 is coming to all flagship phones from Samsung, even the older ones, up to I think from the S21 Ultra, if I'm correct, or the S22 Ultra, I'm not sure. So that's a really good thing. But as you can see, the screen is great. Okay, the design is okay-ish. The sound is actually really good. Not the best out there. I think the iPhone still holds that crown. The iPhone 16 Pro Max has the best sound ever that I've listened from the smartphone. But the sound is okay. Now let's talk about the performance, which actually is amazing. As I said, this year with One UI 7 really fluid, and the processor helps a lot. I just don't see any stutters at all. Okay, I think this year it's just as good as the processor on the iPhone 16 Pro Max. People say it's better, but I mean real world usage. Okay, but the thing that the iPhone has, the big problem that it has right now is iOS 18, which still not very well optimized, even months later, to be honest. But you see, here on Samsung you don't have the issue. It's just amazing, the performance, everything, no stutters at all. I don't do much gaming on smartphones, but I do lots of video editing, 4K video editing, and it's just amazing here. It's just running great. Okay, and so I don't have any issues with performance. Everything works as it should. So up until now I'm only saying good things about this smartphone. So you're gonna wonder why the title, why I don't recommend buying it. As you can see, the charging is really good. It's 45 watts, not the best out there, but it's still good, better than the iPhone, fast enough. It's supposed to charge from 0 to 70 something% in half an hour, but I actually used to get loads of overheating when it was charging, and it didn't really charge that much. Even with the 45 watts charger, it charged up to maybe like 50 something% in half an hour. So I don't know, maybe compared to the iPhone or the Pixel, the Samsung is good, but if you compare to other brands like OnePlus, Xiaomi, Oppo, the 45 watts is just way too slow in 2025. But that's still not the main issue. The main issue which made me actually not recommend this phone are the cameras. For the first time in a few years, the cameras on the S25 Ultra feel actually worse than the S24 Ultra. And they're basically the same thing. Let's be honest, Samsung hasn't really changed their cameras since the S22 Ultra. Sure, now you got a new ultra wide with more megapixels, but there's still a tiny sensor though, so not really good low light performance. Okay, you do have a really nice and a kind of new 5x camera, and the quality is actually pretty good. But this year, it's actually, comparing to the old S24 Ultra, the 5x seems worse. Not all cameras actually look worse. Not the hardware, but actually the software, the processing. they're just not optimized. And I'm gonna show you something. The photos on auto mode weren't good. I didn't like the processing, so I thought, okay, maybe I can fix the software issue, right? And use expert raw and take photos in raw, so I can edit it the way I like them without those issues, you know. They will look better, more optimized. But even on raw, I have this really weird bug, as you can see. When I try to pull up even a little bit the shadows, I get all of this horrible color bending, reds and greens and everywhere on night photos. Look on the details. It just looks awful. And then I tried Lightroom app, you know, the camera app on Lightroom, and then I took a photo on raw there, and I didn't have any of these issues. So there's something wrong with the expert raw app, and that's crazy. And it's not like hardware, it's software, because otherwise Lightroom wouldn't work as well. So basically the auto mode photos aren't good. I'm going to show you some examples. I mean, they're not horrible, but they're actually, even compared to the old S23 Ultra, they look worse most of the times. And expert raw doesn't work. So, you know, I don't have many options. Okay, that's a night mode photo. The auto mode doesn't look too bad, as you can see, okay, but nothing incredible. Okay, sometimes the photos are good, like this time it was with the 5x camera. It looks okay, but it doesn't look as good as the one on the S24 Ultra. I don't know why. Look at this 10x photo I took with the... Use the 5x camera for the 10x photo with digital zoom. It looks awful. I never had such issues with the S24 Ultra. I don't know really what happened here. It just looks soft, like there's some kind of haze or something. And yes, I always clean the camera before, you know, taking a photo. I always make sure it's clean, okay? So it's not dirty. But sometimes I got decent photos with the 5x camera, so I think their photos are just very inconsistent. Okay, you can see this photo right here is with the 5x camera, and it looks okay, but it doesn't look amazing. As you can see, it looks like there's some kind of haze on it, you know, it doesn't look very sharp. And with the S24 Ultra, the results are just much better. And yes, it's not just my smartphone, okay? Because when I use another app like Lightroom or something, I don't have this issue. And I have other friends that are YouTubers as well. They're having the same issues with the cameras. So Samsung needs an update fast. However, with the 3x camera, I actually got good results on auto mode. But just the 3x camera, okay? The other cameras were below expectations, but these ones were actually better than I expected, because the 3x is a really tiny and old sensor, but it's still good. But now look at this with the main camera. Look at the horrible bending, the color bending I told you about. Even on the auto mode, can you see? If you zoom in on the details, it just doesn't look great. It's just not good enough, you know? There's something wrong, like something broken with the camera software on the S25 Ultra. And yes, I did try the optimization things on settings on Samsung, like the minimum, maximum, median, and everything. It didn't really change much, okay? So, you know, there's something that needs to be fixed here. People say that every year, you know, oh, Samsung takes some time to optimize their cameras and they, you know, release software updates and such. But how such a big company can still release half-baked software for their cameras in 2025? They're like one of the biggest smartphone makers out there, and they still give us mediocre cameras on their smartphone releases. It takes some time until the cameras are actually good. That's just not good enough, you know? Even the moon photos aren't that good, as you can see with the 10x digital zoom. As you can see this photo as well, same thing. This photo was actually good with the main camera. During daytime, the photos weren't that bad with the main camera and the ultra-wide camera, but with the zoom cameras, they still had issues even during daytime. And I'm gonna show you some photos. I went to the park, and Samsung still has the same issue with motion blur. Look at those photos. I tried to take some decent photos of the monkeys running around, and I had issues, you know. Most of the photos were blurry, and when the photos weren't blurry, they looked, the details just looked mushed, you know. They didn't look good on the dark areas, as you can see. I tried taking this portrait photo. The monkey was fairly still, but it still weren't good enough, you know. If you use the iPhone 16 Pro Max or some other brands, the photos are just much better, you know, much more detail. This just looks soft, you know, and blurry. So yes, most of them as well were taken with the 3x and 5x camera. And yes, so basically Samsung still has the same issue as before. The selfie camera was actually okay-ish, but worse than the S24 Ultra. Way too, you know, overblown, the highlights and everything like that. That's a common issue on the S25 Ultra. So, you know, this camera just needs a few more updates, and I really hope Samsung fixes this, because otherwise, what's the point of buying this phone? You know, just buy a really cheap S23 Ultra. In my country, you can actually find the S23 Ultra for new, you know, for like, I don't know, $600, $650 new. Even the S24 Ultra, you can find it for like $800 new. So I don't really see the point of buying the S25 Ultra unless you're ready to wait until updates are released.